Ooh, that dirt's not going to help him as we got Espez, who has been saving fuel. Does he have enough to finish this lap going all out? Taking a look down the inside as he gets covered up. Oh, we're going to go 3 wide into the hairpin.
3 wide. Hawkin makes it stick on the right side. Better run for Williams on the left. Espez chooses the left as well. Hawkin now stuck side by side as Espez goes for a 3 wide move. Heading towards Cunningham. Espez bullies his way back up to the point. Williams with the preferred line. Hawkin makes it 3 wide again. Hawkin and Williams late break. Side by side still.
Tolanen's got one of the best runs we've seen from him yet, and this could be the overtake he's been looking for. He pulls up on him, staying to the inside. Partanen stays down low as they come towards the braking into 1 and 2. A little bit of a back off from Tolanen, even though he's good on the binders. Oh, but he shakes him off the racing line and pulls the over-under, and he gets past Partanen.
Gonna poke his nose to the inside, going down into turn 10. That sweeping right-hander. Oh, contact! Newhook gets the worst of it.
He tries to woe it up. Can he? He does keep it on course, amazingly. I thought he was going to have to cut the chicane, but now look at all of them swamping side to side as there's a little bit of a brush into the right front fender of Newhook's car. Now a little bit of banging between himself and Cowgill, trying to hold on to it. They are getting rough out there. We still have 28 minutes to go.
Joe, that was almost 4 wide coming down into turn 1. I don't know if I've ever seen that much aggression here out of these MX-5s.
Under braking, who is the bravest here? More lap traffic in front of him. It looks like Reynolds goes a little bit deeper, but is it too deep? No, he gets ahead. Thomas O'Leary cannot hold him back. Blake Reynolds is back up to the point, fighting back now. It's going to come down through the stadium section and the inside with Thomas O'Leary. The shorter line and a spin from Blake Reynolds gives it up. Get one more good shot here, but passing into Rents. I don't know about that. Side by side in the last corners will be sketchy. Lap traffic staying out of the way. Hammer defends to the inside. Burns around the long way. And he's going to have to take to the runoff because there's a little bit of nudge between them. Comes back to the racetrack, but he's behind as Hammer exits the final corner. Hammer is going to take the win here at Austria. Mayer needed to get ramped up into the season, but once he did, there's been no stopping him. His astonishing consistency puts him within reach of clinching the title today, simply by showing up. Mid-Ohio's rarely used chicane version will make for an interesting one to close things up. Let's see if he can as we get ready to watch round 11 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Robert O'Brien. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Mid-Ohio is a bit of a hidden gem in American road racing, but it seems to endear those who give it a try. Why don't we head down to our track guy to learn more about it? Welcome to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Located halfway between Columbus and Cleveland, Ohio, this track has become a road racing staple in the Midwest. Despite its name, one of the biggest events of the year here is usually the visit from IndyCar. The full 2¼ mile version is what is most frequently used, but it also includes a chicane layout and a short course. While each one officially has 13 turns, they do have distinct differences. The chicane layout was the only version for the first part of its history, in which the keyhole included a bus stop style back and forth jink on its entry. The short course simply bypasses the whole keyhole section altogether. The various turns have some rather famous names, such as China Beach with its downhill braking, inviting you into its eponymous sand trap, or Madness, which is a single file set of S's with drastic elevation change. There's also the carousel, and this more than 180-degree turn offers a variety of lines that can be taken. Perhaps the most unique feature of the track is that in the real world, starts are rarely taken on the pit straight. Instead, the green flag is given along the backstretch where an extra flag stand sits. Naturally, sports car racing is the main staple of the venue, but motorcycles have a long history here, and in more recent times, NASCAR has started to hold races at the track. It also hosts driving schools and days for amateur racers to get on the circuit. The Buckeye State is often more closely associated with dirt track ovals, but the amount of history and prestige in Mid-Ohio's events make it just as worthy of notoriety in the region. Well, Rob, this is essentially my home track, and I definitely have a soft spot for it, but I have to admit, the chicane version is one I'm not as keen on, so it's going to be a tough one for these drivers today.
Tough, but at the very same time, it's still going to provide a lot of glorious action here at the Mid-Ohio circuit. The chicane is going to provide a little bit more of a breakout from the straight line speed that we've seen a lot of these guys get very used to. Now, the big thing between China Beach and the keyhole, as it's called, is that long sweeping straight with only a little paltry right-hander to separate the two sides, and that is where it's going to be. So forget about the chicane. All you need to focus on is what's between the keyhole and the China Breach. Keyhole, China Breach. But there is 15 corners around this 2.4 mile or 3.86 kilometer circuit. And for those of you who are old enough to remember, 386 was an Intel chip at one point. A bit of a fact for today for you.
I'll keep that one in mind as we also want to give a thank you to our sponsor for this series, which is 42 Stitches. 42 Stitches offers custom embroidery and full-color heat transfer. Put your logo on shirts, hats, jackets, and anything else you can imagine to promote your business or organization. They have also just recently expanded their capabilities into vinyl graphics. Put your company logo on your vehicles, create signage, or hand out stickers to potential customers, creating brand awareness. Check them out at 42stitches.com and let them put together a package especially for you. Now, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, the championship is looking like it's just about done. And as we take a look at the Spec 1, it is 134 points. Now, some of that comes down to drop points. And since Simon is here today, as long as he shows up on the grid, that means he's going to get a minimum of 25 points, which should put him out of reach of Foreign's Arabian. So that finishes that off. And you can see it separates pretty farther down, except for Rocco Horvath or Dudu Castro, who could find themselves changing positions here in today's race, depending on how it goes for them. Rob, what about in the Spec 2?
In the Spec 2, it's actually quite a bit closer between Jeremy Lewis and Johan Botenga. Now, Botenga is going to need to close the gap a little bit more. Now, he did actually start moving up, so he has actually gone positive in terms of, championship position for him. But still, 33 points behind is still going to be quite tough. He'll need to beat Jeremy Lewis in all races and by a long way. So it is a bit unlikely at this point that all will turn up roses for him, because all of them, both of Jeremy Lewis And I think that's it. Jeremy Lewis, the only person who's raced all races, so he has plenty of drop weeks in the pocket, and he just needs to keep coasting away, and he'll be laughing to the bank. But to the rest of them, it is going to be, down the list is Frederic Richtig on 328 points, Flavio Andolo on 299 points, and Ian Gibson still in the... he hasn't raced in the last two, but he's still in the top 5 for the S2s. And then, of course, my favorite, the Masters, but I think you have that one, Joe.
Yes, indeed. And it's kind of a similar situation to what we saw with Gibson, because Antonio Reese still leads things, and he hasn't been at the last 4 races. And again, they only get 3 drop points. So that tells you how dominant Antonio was before he suddenly had something seem to have interrupted his attendance. And Tom Gradwell is 86 points behind. He's been gaining, but he's going to have to keep that up. And unfortunately for him, Antonio is back again today, but he's out of drop points, so he's got to perform well as Leroy Coppage, Kenneth Batley, and Jeff Cantor round out your top 5 with 3rd and 4th. Pretty close out there. As for today's event, Robert, why don't you run us down the race details?
So the basic thing about the Formula V's is it's always going to be, well, qualifying is going on right now, but it's always going to be a 40-minute race with a limited fuel tank. So they will have to do one stop. I imagine they will around mid-Ohio. A lot of open space to accelerate down, lots of braking, and a lot of having to, put the throttle on 100 and 0, but it'll be open setup. So if anybody has cracked the codes and has put their car in a great position, it will be interesting to see how they'll handle, especially that first section. That's going to be interesting to see if they've dialed the car in just so. As well as which, this is round 11, so drop weeks are starting to be considered. It'll change the complexion as we get into the final round 12, and then we will see sort of how they all shapes up. But for today, 40 minutes, one stop, open setups. That's all you need to remember.
You're talking about that open setup and how simple these cars are. I'd love to see iRacing be able to get a bunch of F1 drivers out here and send their race engineers with them to try and set up the car for them, see what they can do with these things. As we see 1 minute left in qualifying, Arabian holds the provisional pole position. Thortullo has the pole in the Spec 2, and Antonio Reese, no surprise here, holds the pole in the Masters currently. And let's see who is the next across the line. It looks like we've got Thortullo actually. Well, no, he just went off track and he spun it out. So he is done for that qualifying session. Jesus Rodriguez, who has yet to set a time, now comes across and he still doesn't set a time. That is Tully, you see backwards on the track. The next one across going to be Antonio Reese. That one not quicker. He gets one last shot at trying to improve here.
He's doing very well. I mean, he's been absent from the last, I think, 4 races. It was good to see him back out there, putting them laps and seeing what he can do. I think he's only 3.5 tenths of a second behind Florence Arabian, who's the fastest driver out there on a 1:43.196. Followed very, very closely by Simon Mayer, who did a 1:43.261. You're in a group of 3 right now, and that group of 3, I think, contains Simon Mayer. Mayer's at the head. There he is, looking at very sort of a rustic little car. It's like a little fighter plane from World War II. Sort of got that worn in sort of look. Sort of goes well with this kind of cockpit.
Yeah, I like that. It looks like he took a hammer to some sheet metal and just kind of put it in the shape of a Formula V. And they have gotten the checkered flag now, so Belansky comes across, and he's not going to be able to go any faster. He only had one timed lap. Hansen, the next one through. He doesn't improve either. And Mayer and Brewster going to come across. Mayer, can he take the pole away? No, he does not go quicker. He is 6/100ths off of Florence Arabian. Chris Montgomery going to be the next one through. And, well, no, he is going to come into pit lane. So that takes us to Rodriguez and Wobolt next.
Then to say it ain't so, a lot of these cars are probably going to have tricky maneuvers coming around that final section there. It's do or die in that final section for the Mid-Ohio's. I mean, if you make a mistake on the hill, for instance, it's practically game over for you because, as we've discussed many times before, these cars aren't conducive to horsepower. I think the opposite is true. I think the lack of horsepower is conducive to these cars with the very small engine these cars have. And as we can see, plenty more cars still going around trying to get. I think this is Antonio Reese, actually.
Yeah, he's already finished.
He's already finished, so he's not going to be able to set another lap time. And I think, actually, for those that have set a lap time, they already have. And anyone else who's out there kind of is just putting in practice laps. It is the end of qualifying, and it goes into warm-up then.
Yep, that is it for the qualifying. We'll go to that starting order in a little bit. And it is quite cloudy out here today as well, I noticed, and that's kept track temperatures a little bit cool. It's also got some wind blowing around, 14 miles an hour at 23 kilometers for those who go by the metric system. And it is set, it looks like, I believe, on October 30th, so just before Halloween here in the virtual world. And that makes sense to me, getting a little bit of a blustery fall day for our drivers here in Ohio. I've experienced many of those in my lifetime. And hopefully that won't throw them off too much. They are very light cars, but they also don't have much in the way of aerodynamics. So shouldn't be too much of an issue. Like you were talking about, the troubles in trying to deal with this track with the cars not liking getting off the throttle, some of those faster corners, going to be certainly a bit of a mind bender for many of the tracks, or for many of the cars today, Rob. Because that S's section through Madness and into the S's is, I haven't gotten to race this track with this car. I have to think that it's going to be very little in terms of braking through there, more just kind of lifting off and try to keep your speed up.
You kind of, yeah, absolutely. If you bleed too much speed off in these corners, especially with these kinds of cars, these cars aren't the cars that you can make it up with by just stamping on the throttle. Because I mean, it's more like a firecracker more than anything else. It kind of takes a while to sort of get back up to speed. If you make a mistake, the rule of thumb is you kind of have 3 corners have that mistake continue to affect you, and then you sort of have to, by the 3rd corner, it sort of comes back into normality. In these cars, it's definitely going to, as you can see, that is going to be a massive mistake there riding on board, especially coming through these sections up the hill. If you lose time by sliding around a lot, backing the car out, the car gets unstable on you, you are going to be suffering heavily through each of these corners, because Mid-Ohio is quite, it's not just side to side, it's up and down.
Oh yeah, and I love the elevation change that you have around here. Definitely gives it a bit of that old school feel. You can see some of it as we ride on board with Charlie Rogers following Simon Mayer. And a little bit easier, it looks like, down through what is turn 13 in this version. It's usually called turn 11. And Mayer's giving us a good example. One thing that I was worried about, that is the pit entry. It's got a bit of a chicane into it. I'm not sure if the drivers are in fear of wrecking, but in most cars, you kind of got to make sure not to take it too quick into there.
It's going to be the biggest time save, or the time lost in these cars, is going through the pits, because they will have to take the pit stop. I don't imagine that anyone will pull an Ian Gibson and somehow magic fuel out of thin air and take the whole race on one pack of fuel. They will have to come in, so good pit stop practice is needed. The more time that you spend, making sure that you have nice lines coming into the pits is going to be best for you when you come in, because again, these cars have no pit limiters, and as you can see, the Formula B going around.
I love seeing the Formula B back once again. And in fact, this is a bit of a different, so we have 2 Formula Bs, essentially. We've got Jim McGill's, and then we had another driver. I'm trying to remember who it was that came in with a sort of Hornet scheme on it as well. And I got to try and figure out who that was. I'll look through the order and see if they're here today. But yeah, glad to see Jim McGill back in with his Formula B scheme out there as Sputanga goes quickest. That is interesting here in the warm-up. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but the 664 getting out there and putting some time in. There you can see him going through the chicane. Now this is a bit of a weird track, Rob, because normally most race courses in modern times, when you've got a chicane, that's been put in within the last few decades usually. Well, here it was taken out. The bypass is the new course and the chicane is the old version. Figure that one out.
Well, I mean, if a chicane is going to be taken out, it's probably for a good reason. But I mean, with these kinds of cars, it might be a comic relief effect if they were to go up the up the hill all the way. So to sort of help them try and get around, sort of put in the chicane, is like, we'll avoid the big hill, we'll go out, we'll attack it in a sort of a side to side. And it's how you would scale mountains, for instance, go side to side instead of tackling it straight on. And as you can see, Antonio Reese putting the fastest lap in there. Again, not the be all end all of outright pace, but more just drivers starting to try and think about race pace, see if they can save fuel. The thing is, part of the course of that as well is it will provide a slingshot for anybody who's smart enough to go through it at just the right angle. You'll find that drivers will try and line up essentially to go as straight as possible through that chicane, then take the hairpin and essentially try and slingshot out of the chicane, then go on the inside into a hairpin and take a position. So it is going to be a dangerous corner, but it is going to be an interesting one.
Yes, very interesting. And they actually changed it for IndyCar, from what I understand, to help overtaking there, as that straight lines right into the keyhole. So that was back in 1990 when they switched that one around. It looks like the warm-up is over. So let's go through our starting order. And it is going to be Foran's Arabian on the pole with Simon Mayer, who will be in P2 out there today. Jim McGill, great qualifying for him, in third as Thortula takes the pole position for the Spec 2. Antonio Reese, the pole position for the Masters, right behind him in fifth overall. Tom Gradwell will be to his outside in sixth, as Jim Brewster starts in seventh and Ian Gibson in eighth. Then it's Luca Leone starting ninth today, and Chris Montgomery rounds out your top 10.
Then in 11th is going to be Neil Sinkowski. 12th is going to be Kevin Batley. 13th is going to be Jason Green. 14th is going to be Paolo Brem. Justin Hoffman in 15th, with Jeremy Lewis falling behind in 16th. Marco Trespidi in 17th. Nick Sigley in 18th. Charlie Rogers in 19th. 20th is going to be Kaj Hansen, Jeff Cantor, Johan Batenga, Isan Gin, Brian Bislansky, David Gasper, St. Vasquez Bank, Jesus Rodriguez, Gary Bolt, and Stevie Ray round out the 20th to 28th positions.
So there's your field, and they're getting ready to take the green. Unlike real life, they will start here on the pit straight. In real world, they start on the backstretch just because it has better room. And the green flag is out. Arabian, it's off like a shot. Mayer follows him, but he only needs to follow him. Oh, we got a car off at the very start. That's Luca Leone having a big issue, and I think maybe avoided running into the wall. But we see them coming through the first turn, 3 wide, a little bit farther in the pack. They're going to get that sorted out with Neil Sinkowski managing to get in front. But now they swing into the chicane for the first time.
Yeah, and you said 3 wide. Oh, people are trying to push themselves too wide. That is 2 wide, just ahead of them, actually. Just in the group of Paolo Brown, Kenneth Bentley, and Justin Hoffman coming around the keyhole, making sure it's one by ones. Keep it nice and tidy, gentlemen, around the keyhole. And now out towards the China. Oh, sorry. Just to say, it's actually nobody's really attacking. Actually, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to do slipstreams, but no.
Well, Thortula might have an attack from Antonio Reese behind him as they come down to the braking. Oh, a big mistake from Thortula. He goes deep into the corner. Back there, we were watching some of the battles. Ian Gibson spins off the track and back into the racing line. He's facing the wrong way. Everybody manages to avoid him miraculously, except for Bilansky, who just spins around on his own. All right, we are still golden up at the front with Arabian ahead of Mayer. Oh, we are not. It looks like Trespidi had a bit of an issue. His cars scatter. I spoke too soon.
Oh my! Yeah, I think everybody had a collective heart attack there just then. I think everybody was just like, "Oh no, there's a car going off and it's in the crest of the hill. Scatter, scatter, scatter!" And they just about, I think, I do think everybody actually did manage to avoid him. So good kudos to everybody for, being very up and aware. But I don't think they would want to have a heart attack, Joe.
Paulo Brem, Justin Huffman got involved in that. I think David Gasper's got a small piece of the incident out of madness. So, yeah, there was a few drivers that did get themselves some damage. Looks like Brem, Huffman, and Wobolt are on pit lane. They do have a spare car in case they find themselves with damage, but that is it. They have to try and take it to the end without any more of those wrecks as we come onto the backstretch once again. Out of the keyhole, Arabian leads Mayer with McGill in third and Reese up to P4.
Reese doing very well, keeping it nice and tidy. That's all he needs to do, Reese, is just keep it tidy, make sure that everything is nice and in play, and then just come on home. That's all he needs to do, and that's all that's Mayer needs to do. Mayer just needs to keep as close as possible. And oh my goodness, that is going to be a scramble. I don't think there's any other word to say it. A scramble for fifth.
That's Brewster ahead of Tulla with Sinkowski and Gradwell behind them, trying to vie for that P5, as you said. Now coming up towards Thunder Valley. A little bit less horsepower in these things, so don't have to worry about spinning the tires over the top, but you do have to worry about going wide like Brewster did, and it looks like Tulla's going to get that spot.
I was about to say Scrabble, but that's a board game. It's not going to be conducive to this situation. As Jim Brewster and Neil Sinkowski go side by side, coming through and trying to make sure that they're using as much of the track as possible, not giving each other too much space, but Brewster having to tuck in behind Sinkowski, who just is commanding the track right now.
Could be a Scrabble if they're at a loss for words, as it looks like Simon Mayer is going to fall back to fourth, and Reese gets up to third, McGill into second. I think we had an off for Jesus Rodriguez. Don't need to go to it. He's going to drop down the order at the back of the field. But Foreign's Arabian, half a second ahead. It does look like the slipstream is enough that you can hold station behind some faster cars. Question is, can you get the passes?
No!
Whoa, that's a spin. That looks like Brewster.
That's Brewster. Yeah, it is Brewster. Unfortunately, I think he just got a tippy tap from behind. And let me just go ahead and see. Oh, yeah. Little bit of a tap from behind, and I think that was Gradwell. Yes, Gradwell tipped him from behind, sent him around, just got the nose. You see, the real big thing about these cars is that nose does stick out a good way. So if you get in the middle of some wheel arches, and if you get in between the suspension, sorry, there is no wheel arches, in between the suspension linkage to the wheel and to the body, there's a nice big gap there that for some reason fits that nose perfectly well.
Exactly, as we go wheel to wheel now between Kenneth Bately and Chris Montgomery. This is for 11th position. Kenneth going to be able to take that 10th place from him. We also saw on screen for a brief moment Tulla and Sinkowski were vying for 5th. Niels is going to take that spot. Out of Thunder Valley, up towards turn 13 once again. Brewster trying to regain some of that ground that he lost as he stretches away from these two, vying for 10th.
10th is going to be the fulcrum point, as it were, because we've had the cars ahead of them. And by the way, Dave Gaspers, guess what? He started all the way back. He's now up into 12th.
Yeah, Gaspers began in 25th place. He didn't put a lap time in. That sounds like something David would do. He's not got anything invested in the championship here, so he's here to have some fun. He's avoided a few of the wrecks in front of him already as he weaves through the chicane. Right now, behind him, that is Nick Sigley, who is trying to chase him down. He started from 18th. He's also had a nice run through the field. Wonder if he's just kind of attached himself to David, knowing his pace, and is just kind of riding those coattails.
Just to interrupt, but Jim McGill going to pass on the inside, and he makes it. He now leads this race.
You saw the same thing I did at the same time. McGill over Arabian, so he does want to try and take that lead. I don't think we've ever seen McGill take a win in the Formula V's for the Weekend Warriors. So this could be a big day for him if he could take that Formula B to Formula A today and finish at the top. Reese still behind him. Simon Mayer looks a little bit content to ride in fourth. I wonder if he's saving fuel.
Well, I think Mayer just got put to the post by Antonio Reese, who just wanted to race his. Oh, that's a car gone off.
That's Lewis.
Yeah, Jeremy Lewis there. A little bit of a mistake. Having to sort of take the slow lane and the walk of shame, really, back on towards the track. Now, I did think Jim McGill had his Scrabble words all really properly set up today. He had the Formula B and all the way up into first position. Ahead of Forns, ahead of Antonio, and you come back to Simon Mayer sitting contently behind. I think he is, because all he has to do is just keep in the same ballpark as Forns is, and he's got it. That's all he needs to do, which would put a driver at ease. You know, if all you have to do is sort of hang on to the rope, as it were, sort of somebody's got you. Oh, look at that! That's Farns Arabian going very wide. He's very wide going in, and then has a cute angle of attack coming out of the corner.
Bit of a unique line. Let's see if Wobolt holds them up at all this lap. They've still got a bit of ways to catch him. You can kind of see him there in the distance. And it looks like Arabian wants to try and snatch this back from Jim McGill. He's got a nose inside, and it's ahead. Breaking down into China Beach. He is through. McGill tries to shut the door before Antonio Reese is able to try and make it 2 positions lost, and he does. So back down to P2 for the 42.
I do have a question though. Where is the nearest beach? Because I've never heard a corner being called a beach.
So there's an interesting story behind that. I don't know if it's true. From what I've been told, it's called China Beach because the sand came from China. Again, take that as you will. I've heard various other stories, such as if you go off there, you keep going until you hit China. So I'm sure that is one that's probably lost to lore, as nobody probably really knows the true story behind it. I'm sure someone will claim that they know the true one, but we'll try and track it down someday. In the meantime, Jim McGill trying to now hold off Antonio Reese. To answer your other question, by the way, do you count a lake as a beach?
I pass. Go fish. Give me another word in Scrabble.
Okay, I was going to say, because if you go by a lake, Lake Erie would be your closest beach for this place.
It'd have to be a very big pot of land, a pot of ocean. But I mean, to be fair, I mean, these guys are in. Oh, that is going to be a very wide car. That's going to be a lapped car. I thought that was an out of sync car, but not out of sync in terms of track position, but just a corner position. And we just have them passing by. No harm, no foul. And you can just see there, that is going to be Jim McGill in the Formula B. I don't think he's content. No, he's definitely not content. Going on the inside of the Forns Arabian, coming towards China Beach now on the inside. It seems to be a particular... It's one you can't really defend from either, it seems, in these kinds of cars. I know you can defend at other cars, but these cars sort of like, well, you're there, so you might as well take the corner.
Yeah, so that is Wobolt now overtaken by this quartet. At what stage do we see them try to pit in? We're already a quarter of the way through the race, so the pit window is open right now. But we don't usually see drivers try to come in early. Usually it is a fuel-saving game in these lower-powered machines that offer up plenty of slipstream. McGill is enjoying this newfound freedom up at the front, being able to lead the race, having overtaken the leaders a couple times to try and keep himself at the point and have that clear air. They're going to cross and start lap 7 now. And these 4 that you see are McGill, Arabian, Reese, and Mayer currently.
Yeah, it's actually quite calm. I was expecting, well, I do say that now. I'm probably going to be gobbling up my own Scrabble words and having to, put down a new set, because Farns Arabian looks like he's about to throw the table overhead, heels, and absolutely everywhere in between, because he was looking very aggressive coming through turn 1, because he was looking like to have the move made. And it's just, it's weird, because he's quite aggressive, but he doesn't need to be. All he needs to do is save fuel. Do the same thing that Simon Mayer's doing. Simon Mayer's practically got the folding chair out and sat back. That's all he needs to do.
When you said a folding chair, I thought you were going to go with a wrestling theme for a second. So we watch Arabian try and look down to the inside once again. And he is going to outbrake McGill. So that is going to be where we expect perhaps the wildest battle at the end to start, if we still have drivers within slipstream of one another. We also had a spin with a couple of cars. Jesus Rodriguez spun a little bit earlier. And I think we had one, and then I seem to have lost him. think that may have been Jeremy Lewis who had a spin out of the final corner. We've only lost one car. It is Justin Huffman, who has retired, but 26 drivers still rolling. Wobolt and Brem have taken their spares and they're back out and rolling.
And by the way, another overtake for you to mention. Guess who's in the top 5 now? It is Niels Sinkowski. He's made the move. Oh, that's another spinner. Screens very quickly. Niels Sinkowski past Thortilla, now in the top 5, and he's chasing down this group.
Yeah, that's Belansky. And, oh, okay, this is interesting. We've got a whole bunch of our leaders in, Reese, McGill, and Arabian, but Mayer stays out. Again, this is incredibly unusual compared to how the series usually goes. And, oh, did somebody miss their stall? Antonio Reese, did he miss his pit stall, or did he just have a 1.3 second stop? Am I seeing that right?
Yes, he did go into a stall. Yes, he stopped and then he came back out.
There's no way he took enough fuel. What happened with the 914?
If he somehow manages to win this race, I will actually put a Scrabble board down and actually play a full game of Scrabble. That's how confident I am. He's gonna need to pit again. Well,
I'll play in it. I love playing Scrabble, but as we watch them continue, another car off. I see Kenneth Batley. Ooh, he's lost a few positions. Remember, he was vying up front. Looks like that has gone away. Yeah, and there is the times between Reese and Arabian. That is more of a normal stop at 9.5 seconds. And Forens, did he come out the leader of those? Yes, he did. McGill behind him by a couple seconds, as unfortunately his stop was not as efficient.
He's got also quite a number of cars as well to sort of go through as well. You know, it depends on how Antonio Reese places, because he might have found the absolute laser beam of strats and the laser beam of setups and have just blitzed everyone out of the water with how smart and how clever he is. But I just want to actually pay attention to see if he comes in again, because I double, triple, quadruple guarantee that he has to stop again. That is not a stop. That's just you sat in the pits, took on some water, not fuel, water, and are going back out again. No, he's missing the pits.
Okay, well, this is a weird one, as we were also watching Thortilla and Niels Sinkowski fight for what is now second place for a brief moment. We've jumped back behind them, watching Antonio Reese. Here is our podium drivers going through the chicane. And is that Arabian behind them? No, that's Jason Green back there. You're not allowed to have a purplish car. That's just going to confuse us. That's just cruel to us up in the booth, as we're used to Forens Arabian having that color. And poking down to the inside, Niels Sinkowski is going to have a good run past Thortilla. Thor does not defend. I think he's just going to let this one go.
Yeah, there's no point in defending in here, because I think the angle of the corner itself, it's just not conducive to being able to keep it around the outside, especially because these guys they just not got the horsepower. Because I mean, when your speed is affected by the amount of steering input that you put in, that's when you have to sort of yield. Because with these cars, because of the angle of attack of the corner, they're actually losing speed as they're coming in, turning in, because the engine's just not able to keep up with it.
I can scrub off so much just by little inputs in this machine. And Tulla easily slotting back into third. That's Gradwell and Green behind them. None of these four have stopped. Let's see if any of them elect to do so this time through. And the answer is a no, but Thortilla taking an alternate line out of the carousel compared to Sinkowski. Doesn't look like it gave him enough of a run down the front stretch. And not often you see passes into turn one either, even in these cars. So let's see if he tries to set him up maybe for the backstretch here in a minute.
Well, you have to set him up. So I think if I'm being Thortilla and if I'm in his brain, I would be holding, because there's no point in this constant back and forth. Because if Tom Gradwell, while these two are battling, cannot gain enough to poke his nose, there's no point in Thortilla poking his nose at Niels Sinkowski, because Niels Sinkowski is going to poke his nose back. So there's a lot of poking of noses, and there shouldn't be. Just leave the nose alone.
Well, I can also tell you that Gaspers poked his nose into pit lane. Unfortunately, he missed his stall, so it was a bit of a long one. He's back out in 18th. As we keep watching these guys down through madness now, that gives you a good idea of just how much elevation change there is throughout this lap. Also, some really good viewing spots throughout, I can attest. I've been here a couple times in real life. Really a scenic place to come watch a race as they now head into Thunder Valley. This is another good spot to watch. It is indeed a bit of a valley. You can see a good chunk of the track along there. And Tulla still not giving up to Sinkowski, who still follows behind. Any of them going to take it this time? Wide entry, cutting off through, and it looks like Jason Green has decided, I've saved enough fuel at the back of this group. Let's take some splash and dash, as he is the only one of them that will duck in.
It'll be interesting to see how the how that plays out, because if you look forward between Tulla and Mayer, that gap is actually increasing. It's not gotten smaller. It's actually gotten wider, because Simon Mayer, all he has to do is drive, and that's all he has been doing. And with these guys, it's like, oh, we'll battle. We'll see how it goes. But that battling is just extending that gap, and they're not chasing anymore. They're falling backwards.
Well, Green got out with a just under 11-second stop into 12th, so he is ready to go. We'll see if it gives him anything as we go side by side down into China Beach yet again. Thortala with Sinkowski going through. Niels is going to get himself P2, and we're just about hitting that halfway mark. Luca Leone just finished his pit stop, so we're seeing a few of the back markers start to take a bit of a gamble by taking an earlier stop and see if they can net themselves anything out of the S's. And poking his nose a little bit once again. Thortala just watching on an alternate line to see what Sinkowski is going to do.
Sinkowski just... the problem is, he kind of needs to go on the horn and ask Thortala to just, hey, Thor, come on. We can work together, right? Right. And even just try and attempt that, because Thor will just continue this battling, and it won't benefit either of them.
This buddy, pal, friend, see if he can maybe sway him. Sinkowski is going to lead that lap through, but he is in second, we should remind our viewers, because it is Simon Mayer who's still up at the top and yet to take his pit stop. Actually, what has his laps been looking like compared to Foreign's Arabian, who we think is going to be the one to challenge him? See if we can pull up the comparison. And there it is. That's with Sinkowski. There's Arabian. Arabian has been faster. Ooh. Okay. The plot thickens.
Though, as well as which, Foreign's doesn't have... He is coming up to a car now, but he hasn't had a car to sort of hold him up. Like, you can see there, he's got traffic ahead of him. He hasn't had a car to hold him up, and I think that would be where Simon Mayer sort of needs to put the hammer down as best he can. But he's obviously sticking to a strategy, and he's not... I mean, again, he's not... She shouldn't be overly fussed about anything at all, because all he needs to do is keep close to Foreign's Arabian. That's about it. Foreign's Arabian is going to be the one under severe pressure, because he needs to create as much gap as possible. So if he manages to give Mayer the slipstream, it's game over.
We had a rare mistake from David Gaspers that sent him in a spin. I think he may have had a little bit of a touch, and he has since come into pit lane. And I'm not sure if he's taking service or what, because he drove it into pit lane, but he's been sitting there, and so he's not taking his spare car if he wanted to. Well, that is a bit of a strange one. We'll have to try and investigate that as we now pass the halfway mark officially. And it is still Mayer leading. Sinkowski is in second, been swapping back and forth with Tulla. And now, you mentioned it before, some traffic ahead of Arabian. Some of it ducks out of the way. Nick Sigley is going to give him a bit of breathing space as he takes his service. Up next, Chris Montgomery in P6. Montgomery did not go away, so this could be a bit of a hold-up for that 6 car.
I mean, it is going to be a hold-up, and Chris Montgomery is not going to... It's going to be 4th position. He doesn't need to let Fabian go, and it's going to be at the critical point where it's going to be stuck behind. Look, there he is, having to go wide, having to slow up, having to, give the space for Chris to race, and now he's side by side, but it's still going to be, annoying for Arabian, because it's another car that he need not battle. He just needs to get up there and quick.
That was very deep for Arabian, but he squared off the exit beautifully, and he is already ahead of Montgomery. Oh, we've got side-by-side an unusual place for Tulla and Sinkowski, as it looks like Sinkowski's also going to lose out to Gradwell. Now why did that one kick off? I think Niels may have put his wheels into the grass a little bit coming out of madness, and that cost him, and that just elicited Thor Tulla to try and attack, because usually you do not see drivers overtake through madness in the S's.
It did indeed. Actually, it was coming out of madness, tipped the tires, and then the car got very upset at him, kind of almost did a tank slapper, and it just sent him sort of very low geared and very sort of slow into the next corner. Then everybody else is just like, oh yeah, thank you for the position. But I mean, it doesn't change the fact that they're still very, very slow compared to Simon Mayer, who's the gap is now extending to 7 seconds.
Now, Antonio Reese, 1.3 second stop compared to Arabian at 9.5. That should have put him 8 seconds ahead, wouldn't it? But he's only 2.5. So Arabian's either much, much quicker than Antonio, or I wonder if Antonio is desperately trying to save fuel all race long here. I'm not sure which is the case. I don't think he can save enough fuel that he can do a 1.3 second stop. But this continues to mystify me as to what in the world happened in that pit stop for the 914.
His last lap comparative, so this is Antonio Reese's last lap, was a 144.442 comparative to Florence Arabian, who did a 143.733. So it is conducive to him fuel saving. I think that's the strategy that he has chosen. I don't think it's going to pay dividends, because I mean, look how quickly Florence is closing that gap. He let the slipstream is going to be off by him. I don't think he would have wanted to go for the win anyway. He'd go for the win in class, but he won't go for the overall win. Maybe because he's just trying to have his own race out there. I mean, all he needs to do is get past Gradwell. That's it.
What he really needs is someone to slipstream off of, which he doesn't really have right now. Simon Mayer continued on past the pits this time, so he's not heading in. Looks like our battle for second does not. Antonio Reese still showing no signs of having to take more fuel. And Chris Montgomery also going on past, so still waiting for a number of drivers, maybe about half the field at this stage, that need to come in for fuel. Also, a quick update that we have lost David Gaspers. He's retired. And Ian Gibson, our latest, who is pitting in the 893.
So he has not done an Ian Gibson, unfortunately. Not like on the Legends RC at Charlotte. He's having to come into the pits. But Tom Gradwell, by the way, he's going side by side with Thor Tulla.
Here we go again, and down into China Beach. Gradwell around the outside. No, excuse me, on the inside. It is Tulla having to give it up. So Tom Gradwell, after sitting behind them for some time, is starting to get involved. He wants to try and grab track position. So they now head into the S's. Will they pit in this time? Up and over the crest, curved braking zone, difficult braking zone here, coming into turn 11 and into the Thunder Valley. And look at how close Tulla is able to ride behind him. That's the sort of thing I was expecting Antonio Reese to do all race after that short pit stop, is just find someone to attach himself to and save fuel riding behind them. As they come across the line once again, nobody of the three deciding to pit in, neither is Simon Mayer. And Reese is in this time.
Yeah, so the poor, unfortunate, I think it might have been a mistake. He might have not put in enough fuel, and has only started to realize this. It took a few laps for him to realize, but he will have to come in again, and that is going to be heartbreak for him, because it's going to be him having to now attach himself to the group of Tola, Sinkowski, and Gradwell.
I don't think he's going to come out close enough to them. Because it's an extra stop. And yes, okay, this one, a full 10 seconds. That makes a lot more sense to me. I wonder if he put no fuel in, just forgot to check the box, and had a tear-off taken off of his visor or something and just went right back out, as we see the battle for P2 once again between Tulla and Gradwell, as Neil Sinkowski has decided to sit out of the fight for a little bit. Look at the various lines that everybody's able to take through this segment. And that's one thing I love about this track, Rob, is that basically from China Beach all the way down to the entry to Thunder Valley, you can take about 4 or 5 different lines and you're not wrong.
It depends. I mean, it also depends on the car as well. If the car would allow you to have such a thing as, you know, a unique line, or in this case, it would be, you know, how you set up the car itself. In my view, from my personal view, I would have said, I think there's about 2 lines. There's a wide line and then there's a tight line for the formative E's, because the wide line is conducive. We've seen, you know, likes of Foreign Arabian being able to sort of hang it around wide, coming into a corner and then going out, hold it tight. So there is plenty of lines for it around here. But yeah, for most other cars, there is about 4 or 5 lines. You could still sort of make a very quick lap.
Looks like Chris Montgomery finally relinquishes his position amongst the top 5. He's going to pit in. Arabian now gets bumped up into 5th. Jim McGill definitely has lost touch, so it's not looking likely for the 42 to be able to snatch a win. Where is Montgomery going to come back out? Reese is going to be able to go by. Looks like Sigley is going to go by him as well. Ooh, it's a long stop for Chris Montgomery. 15 seconds stationary. A little bit slow on the fuel, unfortunately.
I did see Tom Gradwell, by the way, on his own, under his own steam, hit 160 kilometers an hour on the clock, which is near enough to about 100 miles an hour. So, hey, they can at least get up to about 100. Will I get to it about in many places? Probably not.
Very few places, from my experience, just about creep into 100. Yeah, I'm looking at Jason Green as well. Yeah, about 100 miles an hour, 99 that the 360 managed before he hit the binders. But what about this man, Simon Mayer? No pit stop for him with 10 minutes left to go. Still content to continue riding around. Tom Gradwell behind him still needs a pit stop. Is he going to stop in? No, neither is Tulla, but Sinkowski will. Niels has been sitting behind these two for a couple laps now. Did that save him enough fuel that he can pull some tricky stuff?
Pit stop limit here is 72, isn't it? I did see Sinkowski just tip over quite a bit into the 76 region, but he kept it nice and safe. But Simon Mayer, I don't know what his fuel tank is full of, but it's now full of air, because he's definitely not got a lot of fuel left in that. So you need to pit in this time or next time by. And by the way, Nielsen Sinkowski coming out in 7th place.
It's 45 miles an hour for those going by Imperial money. And here we go, another driver down on the lane. That is Rogers. So that's the 223, and a little bit of a long stop, unfortunately, up to 15 seconds. He is going to lose a lot of spots there and return all the way down, and it looks like 17th or 18th position.
It's going to be a bit difficult for Mayer, because he's all alone, and the gap behind him is forever extending. It's now up to double digits in terms of seconds. 10 seconds, about 10 and a half seconds on the money for the gap between himself and current second place of Tom Gradwell. He'll need to be careful though, because Niels himself is out into 7, but Foreign Arabian is only 20 seconds behind, and the gap is slightly shrinking, ever so slightly.
Mayer stays out another lap, but he's been very consistent 43.9, 43.8, 43.9, only dipping into the 44s this time from Mayer, whereas Arabian, 43.9, 43.7, 44 flat, 43.8. Let's see what Arabian can do this time. 43.9. It's been wavering back and forth, but based on the lap comparison chart here, Arabian does seem to be running quicker laps more often than not.
Yeah, and keeping in touch. That's all he needs to do is keep in touch with Simon Mayer in terms of gap, and just keep trying to chip away at it as best he can, and not only chip away at it, try and leapfrog him. But with the way that Simon Mayer is staying out right now, I honestly feel like Simon Mayer is going to have the ace up his sleeve and go for a very short pit stop, try and do what Antonio Reese did, but actually, put enough in for the one-stop strategy.
I wonder if there's something going on with either how the drivers are racing the track or if the refueling is an awkward spot, because I've now seen a number of them that are 14 to 15 seconds, whereas most are doing between 11 to 9 seconds on the lane, or in their stall, I should say. So strange to see that there's a disconnect between a few drivers. And finally, Mayer comes in. Which will his be? Will it be a short or a long stop? And will we see others join him? I'm watching, yes, Thortalla is coming in. Arabian is in third currently. He's coming around to the carousel. There you see the bright purple machine on your screen and onto the main straight. Mayer is in his pit stall. Hit it cleanly. It's up to 9 seconds. It's a very fast stop.
8.8, but there he is, and there's Florence Arabian going by. It's not happened, but critically, he could still be within the slipstream. All he needs to do is chain this corner very, very cleanly. It just is about, I think. Just about.
1.1 seconds I'm seeing is the gap now that they've evened out. He's on the cusp of it. He's going to need some speed. Let's see. This is going to be about the main spot that he should expect the draft to kick in. And it was about 1.2 at the out of the keyhole. Let's see what it is when they reach China Beach.
Oh, so very close. Oh, does he get it?
It's not coming down.
No, I don't think he has it. No, just about.
Yeah, he's going to have to hope that he has quicker pace than Foreign's Arabian to net himself another win. He's already had 5 this season. He won last time out at Interlagos. And then before that, he won 4 out of 5 in a row, with Mosport being the only aberrant one at second place.
Yeah, and it's all he needs to do is catch the slipstream once around the track at all, and then make sure that he can capitalize on it. And he is closing it ever so slightly. I think. I think that sort of hallmark of there's Florence and now I can get him. I think it will wake him up. He does need, though, to be absolutely focused and on the edge.
And remember, the championship is effectively over here because the drop points will allow Mayer, no matter what, to go into the final rounds with enough of a gap that Foreign's can't beat him for the championship. However, I'm sure Foreign's wants that emotional victory, as he has not beat him on track since that Mosport race where he took the win. So he's trying to strike back, see if he can get momentum in his favor before we head off to the next season to kick off 2022. However, Mayer gets it down to 0.8 of a second. He's found something in the latter half of that last lap, and he's going to make it a run to the finish.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, he's got the slipstream now. Just touching 162 kilometers an hour, 163, 164. So he has found the slipstream that he needed. And he is now striking back towards Foreign's Arabian. So he has succeeded in his mission just by the slimmest of margins, though.
And things get interesting as in the other championships as well. Thortalla currently leading the S2 as that is the AM Championship, but it's the Masters that I am eyeing because Tom Gradwell is currently leading that one. And he is the one that is trying to catch Antonio Reese in that championship. So could this come down to the season finale between the two of our more, shall we say, experienced drivers?
I would say if Antonio Reese is not able to keep ahead of Kenneth Batley, remember Kenneth Batley is in the same class, so he will be affecting Antonio's points. So Antonio needs to keep ahead of him, get to second place for the Masters in terms of position, and keep himself there, keep himself in check. He'll have 2 and a bit minutes to do so, though. So I think that's going to be about just over 2 laps from the line. Oh!
That was the 13 car having issues.
Yeah, Brian Bielanski.
And it looks like he has since taken a tow. So that is day done for him, leaving us only 23 cars. And now Meyer has not only caught up, he is already on the attack. And he's looking around the outside. They're going to get white flag next time by on the defensive move. Arabian is able to rebuff him. Will that inform Meyer's move next time around?
Meyer will have to essentially keep to the right and then hook to the, or keep to the left and then hook to the right, just as Farns is trying to take the corner, or continue hugging him around trying to beach and make the move coming up the hill and then around to the left, because he'll have plenty of overspeed coming through the corner, and then just needs to hold on to the tarmac. That's all he needs to do.
That's honestly my favorite move to do, is just hold around the outside through China Beach into Madness. It's cambered more than you realize, and we'll watch from on board with Mayer. And you can be sneaky, passing around the outside, just getting the inside for that next left-hander as we see them into turn 1. White flag, 1 to go. Can Mayer once again deny Arabian, or can he finally put this back into his hands?
On the outside he goes, not able to attack though. That sends Meyer on the outside. Farns Arabian on the inside has got the line, but he has a very poor entry into the hairpin to keyhole. That's going to inform Simon Mayer of what he needs to do. Needs to hug up behind him now as he comes down the back straight.
He's got the slipstream, but it looks like Arabian wants to cover off that inside. Could Simon get this done the long way around? It is possible, and he's going to be even with him as they come up to the braking, maybe even a nose ahead. Yes, he is, just about half a car in front, but Arabian sends it in deep, maybe trying to cover off the inside of the next corner. He leaves it open, but he doesn't need to cover it, as Mayer is not able to get through. Now it is up to a desperate dive if he wants to take that win away from Arabian.
And this is where it's going to be key. He needs to have done his homework for the last lap. I'm seeing where... Oh, there he goes. Oh, very close on the inside. He thought about it. He's coming up very close now behind Farns Arabian. Simon Mayer is going to try his absolute damnedest to try and see, but I don't think he's done it. I really don't. It's just not enough. There's not enough straightaway to be able to overtake unless he does it right here. Around the outside.
No, he's not close enough. He tries to square off the exit. I don't think that's going to be it. And it is going to be Farns Arabian beating him for the first time for almost half the season to take the win here at Mid-Ohio.
Jim McGill coming in behind him, putting in a nice... I think that's the Formula B's first podium. And then Neil Sinkowski puts it into the top 5 in a good 4th position, and Thortolo wins it for the amateurs, or the S2 class, in 5th position.
And Gradwell does win in the Masters, but Reese is side by side. It's going to be him and Batley, and Reese is going to get second place, limiting the damage.
Very nicely done by Antonio Reese. That was a very nice exchange between himself and Batley there to finish the race. Batley just didn't have any speed going into the final corner, and Antonio Reese just went around the outside, nabbed it, and there he goes.
Looks like we're going to see 21 drivers left on the lead lap, and they're all pretty much spread apart from here. Is Hansen actually got enough fuel to the finish? It almost looked like he was a little slow. But in the meantime, we're going to take a little bit of a break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in indoor series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We just watched the penultimate round of the Weekend Warriors Formula V, and it was Foreigns Arabian who managed to put one over on Simon Mayer. It's not enough to get him into the championship in the final round, though, as Mayer clinched with that P2. Jim McGill earned his first ever podium here in the Formula Vs for the Weekend Warriors. A big pat on the back for him. He earned that one as Neil Sinkowski was fourth, up from 11th, by the way, so great gains there. Thortula was P5 and your winner in the Spec 2 with Jason Green, second in that class, but sixth overall. Then it was Tom Gradwell winning the Masters class and finishing seventh overall. Reese managing to get himself second in that class and eighth. I'll have to check to see if that keeps him how well that does for him on the championship. I don't think he could have clinched it today as it was, as Kenneth Batley was ninth, and then it was Sigley who rounds out your top 10.
Then in 11th is Jim Brewster in the 933. Car 12th was Johan Batenga. Chris Montgomery in 13th with Ian Gibson in 14th. 15th is Luca Leone. 16th, Charlie Rogers. 17th is going to be Ishan Gin. Jesus Rodriguez, after a few mishaps, ends up in 18th. Marco Cespiti in 19th and Jeff Cantor in 20th. In 21st, Kaj Jansen, and was the last car on the lead lap with Paulo Brem a lap down and Gary Wolbert a lap down as well. And then we get into the retirees. Brian Bielanski retired with 7 laps to go. And then we saw David Gaspers retiring with 12 laps to go. 14 laps to go, Jeremy Lewis also retired, and 22 laps to go, Justin Hoffman retired. And then finally, I think it was Stevie Ray who did not take to the grid.
Yeah, I did not see him out there, but we did see Foreigns Arabian, who took the win here today. Let's talk to him, see how he's feeling, having finally topped the podium here for only the third time this season. But Foreigns, it may have been a bit of a foregone conclusion, of course, for the championship. But this looked personal, trying to put one over on Simon Mayer today. And you did by only 0.2 of a second. Tell us about it.
Well, this time around, I really wanted to put forth my, early pit stop strategy. I felt that, with Jim switching places with me and being a little slower on the last section of the track, I'd get a lap or two before Simon in the pits, and apparently he held on as long as possible. I just saw that I had maybe 1/10 better pace around the lap for the rest of the race. In the end, he came out right behind my draft, or maybe a few tenths behind, and caught back up. All was left for me was to defend.
Well, you did a great job on that defense and the strategy in general. So you've taken another victory, and next time out we go to Laguna Seca, another track which can be a little bit tough to try and overtake at. Do you think you can keep that up, maybe carry your momentum well into the next season?
Last time I was there, kind of made a fool of myself, but I'm hoping this time around it will go well. Getting, crashing into your teammates is not always a good idea. So,
yeah, usually looked ill upon by many drivers and team owners. But well done here today to take the win. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to while we got you for this victory?
As usual, everybody who's showing up, it's great to have almost 30 cars, what is it, like 28 cars on track at the same time. And, to you guys for broadcasting this.
Well, thank you very much. And yeah, that's an excellent point from our winner, Forens Arabian, that we had a very healthy field here today. Up next, I believe we've got Rob talking to Simon Mayer, who just got pipped to the post, as he would say.
Indeed, I would. Simon Mayer, unfortunately, pipped to the post, as Joe said, but not too shabby for a great race from yourself, and very well done in second place. How was it out there?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it was good. I was quite lonely for quite a while, to be honest, but the last couple of laps were nice.
And the last couple of laps, you did just about sneak in the slipstream there and get back to it. What was the the goal once you got out of the pits? Was it just to hold behind Simon Mayer? Because it did look like you were going for it, but you just can't get around on the outside coming into China Beach. Was it just then to hold behind Simon Mayer, or try and sneak past him across another corner?
I think you mean Forens, but yeah, I was obviously trying to get past him, but he's just too quick. He had real good pace this week. So when you're matched for pace like that, it's pretty difficult to get past without making some lunge, which I didn't want to do. So I tried my best, but Forens was better this week. So congratulations to him.
What does this do coming into the final round? Do you need to sort of just keep at it as you are, or do you need to be ahead of him on the final round? What's your goal?
No idea. My goal to finish as far up the grid as I can without making any incidents. So that's my goal. It's been my goal all season. So where's the last race? I think it's Laguna Seca. So it's should be a tricky track again. Like this track was good.
Well, I mean, if it provides great racing as we saw in the last few laps between yourself and Arabian, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think Joe's looking forward to it anyway. Would you like to give any thanks or shout-outs?
Yeah, as always, thanks to our sponsor, 42 Stitches, for putting all this together, making it all possible. All the guys behind the scenes, Stevie Ray, all the guys doing the stats, you guys for the broadcast. It's always nice to look back and see what everyone did, and you don't get much idea of what's happening in the race when you're racing. So it's nice to sit back and have a broadcast. So thanks to you guys.
You're very welcome, Simon. Pleasure talking to you as always. I hope to see you at the finishing round next week at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, I plan to be there. See you guys.
Thank you very much, Simon. That was Simon Mayer talking to myself, and it's back to you, Joe.
Yes, and we've got Tom Gradwell with us, who won in the Masters race, finishing 7th overall. But Tom, congratulations on the win. I think more importantly, this has got to feel pretty good considering you're chasing Antonio, but he hasn't shown up for the last 4 races. And now that he arrives back, you managed to outdo him. Let's see if we can get Tom to give us a copy. Tom, you there?
Can you hear me, Joe?
Now we've got you. There's Tom. Tell us about that race, man.
It was pretty good. I finished a couple of places up from where I should have, I'm sure. I got to apologise to Jim Brewster for a little tap in the keyhole early on, so to speak, and that cost him some positions, I think.
You came into this round about 86 points behind Antonio Reese, so obviously it's a bit of a distance to make up, but you gained some just beating him out today. Into the final round, do you think you could do anything to try and claim the Masters Championship?
Oh, no. I've got no chance of catching Antonio. Yeah, look, I had too many drop weeks, and yeah, he's too quick for me anyway. I was trading off Thor and Nils's speed today and just drafting around with them. I was conscious that we were losing a bit of time, but if I'd gone out on my own and pitted, I wouldn't have had the pace that they had.
Well, that sounds like a quite a bit of self-awareness on the situation, which definitely can come in handy over the course of a season. Knowing that you kind of have written off the championship on this one, what are your expectations heading off into Laguna Seca?
Laguna Seca is always a dice throw. There's so many things that can happen there. You never know. You can be slow or quick there, but there's so many opportunities for people to foul up that it's just throwing the cards up in the air, that track.
All right. Well, we'll cross our fingers for you. And again, congratulations on the Masters win today. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
I think I should give a shout out to my wife for being such a good sleeper that I can sneak out of bed at 4:30 in the morning without waking her up. I've got to have more caution not waking the cat than waking her.
Love that. That was Tom Gradwell, our winner in the Masters class, but our 7th place overall finisher here today. And we are going to close up after that one. First of all, with a big thank you to our sponsor of the series, which is 42 Stitches. Check them out at 42stitches.com and let them put together a package especially for you. Also, thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. And thanks to the team today, Rob, Zach, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. And as we mentioned, next week finishes it up at Laguna Seca, Saturday, December 4th at 3 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.